All right. Hey, good morning. And our topic today is a very important one. And one of the reasons why I chose to do these things live is because when I'm actually trying to create presentations, I'm the kind of person who gets really sticky about wanting to make sure everything is logical and sequential, and I get bogged down in this holistic tapestry of these ideas that have come to me and that I've learned to use, and it and it makes it harder for me to do it. So I decided I would just pick the topic, make a few notes, and just start talking about it. And this topic that I want to talk about today is the difference between wishful thinking and positive thinking. Now, the idea of positive thinking is largely attributed to Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book like Think and Grow Rich. And the idea of the title, which was a publisher's idea, is that, okay, if I just think about being rich, I will become rich. Like, thinking is all that is necessary. That we create the world, i.e., through our thoughts. That's kind of the idea that many people misrepresenting the ideas of people who taught positive thinking, like Napoleon Hill or Zig Ziglar or Bob Proctor and many others, that there's this just magical idea. This was kind of furthered by a movie that came out some time ago called The Secret, which was very popular. And The Secret, again, promulgated this idea that if I just hold an idea in my mind, and that's all I do, that it will somehow magically make it appear. Well, as my mom often used the proverb, she'd said, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. Just thinking about something is not enough to make it happen. That's a starting stage to the accomplishment of anything. And I've often told people, if you, like right now, in the room you're in, if you look around you in that room and you see all the things in the room, maybe there's chairs, there's lights, like you probably, if you're watching this, you're sitting in front of a computer or a tablet or a phone. All of those things you're seeing in the environment around you began as ideas in someone's mind. Someone had the idea of making a chair. Someone had the idea of making a computer. Someone had the idea of making an electric light bulb. Thomas Edison. But it didn't come into being just because they had an idea. Now, there was an experience in my own life involving one of my ex-wives, which perfectly illustrates this problem that people get who misunderstand the idea of positive thinking. We had this home, and there was kind of an area where there was like a covered deck or patio area. It kind of functioned like a room, but wasn't really a room. My wife suggested that would be a perfect place that we could put an addition on the house to create a master bedroom with a master bathroom. And it was a good place because it was right next to the kitchen, so you'd have access to the plumbing to put in the bathroom. And I said, I think that's a great idea. I will draw up a plan and start making a list of materials and figuring out how we can save money to start working on making. And she said, stop being so negative, she said. All you have to do is believe and it will happen. And I remember thinking, okay, so if I think, okay, we want an addition to our house, and I hold that idea in my mind, then someday these magical pixies are going to come and they're going to bring all the materials and they're going to build this thing for us while we're sleeping, because that's what it sounded like she was saying. I didn't actually say that to her, but I just dropped the subject. To me, I was thinking positively. I was thinking, that's a good idea. How do we go about making it happen? Positive thinking leads to action. This idea of faith without works is dead. I'm going to explain that faith, that is having an idea or positive thought, leads to action. and the action then finally winds up creating the thing we want. And many people have this mistaken idea even when it comes to God. They pray like, God, give me money. God, bring me a good relationship. God, like God is some kind of divine butler who, if you just have enough mental focus and just I believe in you, I believe in you, I believe in you, that God is somehow going to magically deliver these things to you with no effort, no planning, whatever. My probably part of the reason why I'm not subject to that is my father always said he never prayed for money. He prayed for opportunities to make money. And because he assumed that he would have to do some of the work. And I think that is the correct way to think about this, not just, okay, things are magically going to happen. So there's a statement in Scripture, Jesus says, all things are possible to him that believes. And many people associate the idea of belief as this idea of either just holding it in your thought, which I think there is some aspect of faith that is holding something in your mind, because creating a strong picture and understanding of what you want is like creating the substance of what you hope for, or the evidence of what you have not yet seen or brought into being. But it can't stop there. And profession, which a lot of people also associate with belief, that is, if I say I believe XYZ, that means I believe it, okay? The words or vocalizing it is also faith. Okay, again, that's an aspect of it, but it's not the full picture. So here's the way I understand the process as I've studied it, contemplated it, applied it in my own life. Everything starts up here with the idea in your brain, okay? And then as you formulate the idea, you're actually able then to take it down here where you are able to express it. You're able to put it into some kind of language, words, symbols, plan, etc. But it doesn't end there, because the emotional part of us, the heart, is where it actually begins the process of being created. And Napoleon Hill understood this. He said, you have to infuse your idea with desire and enthusiasm. That is, it has to drop into your emotions, and your emotions are what move you. So the word emotion, and this is why I talk about emotional healing. Emotion is the evoker of motion. Something doesn't become a belief until it gets attached to our emotions, so that our emotions cause us to act on it, which causes it to come into being. And also I want to, while I'm explaining this, again, back up this idea that not all beliefs are constructive or positive. You can exercise faith and turn it into a belief in something that is really bad. Like, for example, every evil thing that has been created in the world is created through the same process as every good thing. Somebody conceives an idea of conquering other countries and comes up with a plan about how to do it and how to go to war, or how to do something, destructive and whatever. Like a criminal, getting the idea I can rob the bank, and then coming up with a plan on how to rob the bank, and then getting the desire to rob the bank, and then actually carrying out robbing the bank. It's the same process. The process works both for good and for ill. It's what we're choosing to create is either going to create good in the world or evil in the world. And of course, I talked last time about the law of the harvest, that's going to reap in our own life good or ill. So let's talk about this in relationship to example for health. Okay, I've told people the story. I grew up, I was quite sickly. I had a lot of sinus problems, a lot of health problems. I had trouble running any long distance because I get winded and have problems with my lungs and coughing, all kinds of stuff. Caught every cold that was going around. had all these kinds of problems. And I often, prayed to God to help me, to heal me. And at one point, I got the idea. Instead, I wanted to know what I needed to do to be healthy. And I started to get ideas and understanding of I needed to change my diet. I started seeing a chiropractor. I started doing things differently, and I got healthy. So in other words, wishful thinking doesn't apply with health. If I have faith to be healed, it means that I actually have faith that there is a way for me to be healed. It isn't necessarily that some kind of magical, okay, I believe it, and therefore it's going to magically happen to me is the way it works. At least most of the time in my life, that's not the way it happens. So like my father, I've learned to pray and ask for guidance or information or knowledge, or to be guided to how to achieve something. How do I get the money I need to survive and take care of my family? How do I what can I do to solve this particular problem I'm facing? And so I'm looking for that process, and then having the desire and the willingness to follow through with the ideas that come my way, the information that comes my way, the opportunities that come my way. And as I carry that out, in other words, the belief then transforms my behavior, then things start to change, and then you start to have, the real positive experiences with this. So I can say, I want to, be healthy, but if I'm unwilling to do what it takes to be healthy, it's not going to happen. In fact, the entire pharmaceutical industry, for the most part, is geared on this idea that people love the idea of having magical thinking or shortcuts, that there's some kind of thing I can do that will absolve me of the consequences of my actions, so I can continue to do whatever it is I'm doing and somehow magically come up with a different result. Now, that works in the pharmaceutical industry because the pharmaceuticals suppress the symptoms. And by suppressing the symptoms, you get the illusion that the problem has gone away, when in reality, the symptom was just the warning light telling you that there was a problem. And now you've suppressed the warning light, but the problem persists, and you wind up continuing to go downhill because you want to eat your high sugary foods, your refined carbohydrates, your processed vegetable oils, your fast food, your food loaded with chemical additives and junk. You don't want to exercise. You don't want to live in a healthy way. You want to, somehow avoid the law of the harvest, and then have God or the universe or the medical doctor deliver you the magical pill, the magical bullet, the magical idea that will somehow absolve you all that, and then you will, be able to avoid the consequence of what's going on. And that's why I wanted to precede this with the video I did on the law of the harvest, that your action is the cause, and then that plants the seed that eventually reaps the result. And so if you're not getting the results you want, there's something in the way you're behaving and the way you're doing things is not working. It's not yielding the results you're looking for. So therefore, you have some idea that's been planted in your brain, often in your subconscious mind. You're not even consciously aware of it. It's operating on you subconsciously or unconsciously, and it's causing you to behave in a particular way that is, yielding a negative result in your life. And so the process of having faith to change my life begins with the thing, okay, here's what I want. So I like the definition that, I forgot the name of the guy who wrote it. Positive thinking is focusing on what you want. Negative thinking is focusing on what you don't want. So when when you identify what you want and you create a picture, okay, I want to be healthy. Now, that's a different idea than I want to get rid of this disease. The getting rid of the disease is this idea, I want this problem I have to go away. Whereas being healthy is what I really want. What I really want is to be healthy, and then if I was healthy, I wouldn't have the disease. So I start by focusing not on what I don't want. The disease is what I don't want. So I don't focus on what I don't want. I start by focusing on what I do want. I want to be healthy. So then, as I put that idea and I think about it, and then I start asking questions, well, how do I be healthy? What does it take to be healthy? What am I doing that's making me not healthy? And then as I look at that, then the principle of asking, seeking, and knocking starts to open up. And especially if I am willing to pray about it and ask God about it, then I will start to open up to be able to receive information and knowledge and so forth, that if I truly desire in my heart, if I really am seriously committed to this, that is, I'm emotionally devoted to it, it will start to become a belief, and I will test the belief by trying out the behavior, changing my diet, starting to exercise, doing things. And as I start to see results, the belief turns into knowledge, because I see that when I apply that particular principle and I act on it, it works. That's how we grow. And this is the process. So wishful thinking is not going to change anything in your life. And again, coming back to the fact, thinking is a really important part of this, because one of the things that most people have a problem with is they can't focus their mind. They're bouncing around from one thing to another thing, and what they're wishing for is constantly changing and often contradictory, and often like wishing for two things that it's impossible to have both of them. Like the old proverb, having your cake and eating it too. It's impossible to have your cake and also to eat it. You have to choose, do I want to have my cake or do I want to eat it? And so people are bouncing around with these wishes. So if you really want to change something, you do have to start with mental focus. You have to identify, this is the change I want in my life. And you have to really seriously think about it. So it's like going back to that thing with the addition on the house. My brain immediately went to what I think is the results of real positive thinking. I thought, we can do this. So therefore, what is the process by which we can make that happen? That's positive thinking. And my first thing was, well, we need a plan. What will that addition look like? And then after we have the plan, what materials are we going to need to put that together? And then the next step would be, how do we go about obtaining the materials to make that happen? And then the next step is, once we have the materials, we would need to do the work of actually building the addition or having enough money to pay someone else to do it for us. So that's the way my brain has come to work with this thing, is if I have I'm thinking positively about something, then I'm believing that it is possible for it to happen, but immediately my brain goes to process. And that idea of process says that it's achievable. There is a process I can take, a journey I can take, step by step by step by step by step, to make something happen. And it is the emotional commitment to it that carries it through to make it happen. If you're not emotionally committed to it, if you have an idea and your heart goes, okay, I want it, but I don't really want it bad enough to have to do the work or pay the price or make the changes or whatever, you don't really want it. Your heart is not really committed to it. It's just wishful thinking. And wishful thinking is never going to accomplish what you really want to accomplish in life. So I would encourage you to think about how you can apply this in your own life. I mean, let's start off with some of the major problems that people might be facing. I find that people Health is one of them. Another one is finances. Okay, so I at one point in my life had realized I was not making enough money to properly take care of my family. I felt that this was something that I should be doing, that it was a good wish, and I basically prayed for God to show me how to do this. And what happened is a series of opportunities opened up to me in sequence, and every one of those opportunities I had to recognize the opportunity and accept it and take action on it. And that would lead then to the next opportunity, which opened up again. And at one point, I was presented with an opportunity and I rejected it, and the whole process came to a halt. And 3 months later, when I realized that things were not working anymore, I realized I had been shown the way and the path to what I needed to do, but I had basically, thought myself out of it and failed to take action on it. So I went back and I asked God for forgiveness, and that opportunity opened up to me again. And when I took it, it led me to where I am now. And my income over the course of a period of about 3 years, like, hugely increased. Okay, so but I had to do my part. I had to not just think about it, but really desire it and be willing to take the steps to move forward in a direction. A similar thing happened. I mentioned ex-wives. I have several ex-wives. I was not succeeding at marriage and relationships, and at some point I had to realize there's something wrong with me and the way I'm approaching relationships and so forth. And so I had to start doing some study. What does it take to have a successful relationship? How does that work? What inside of me needs to change in my attitudes and my thoughts and the way I approach things? And as I worked on that, then things changed, shifted, they got better, until finally I am with a woman who absolutely is just like the partner I've always wished for. And we have this great relationship. All relationships, of course, have their conflicts, their ups and downs and everything, but overall we just really seem to be able to work those things out and move forward in a positive way. But that didn't happen because I just wished, I wish I had this or that or the other, and wasn't willing to do the work. So again, positive thinking, which is really the same as faith, is the idea I clearly identify what it is I want to change in my life, and then I believe that it's possible to change, and then that allows me to start looking for how the change can be made. And as I infuse that with my emotional desire and my emotional commitment and the feelings of how much I'm hungry for that, if you will, then the opportunities start presenting themselves. The path starts opening up, and as you take the steps on the path, it leads you to where you need to go. And so I just and this is, of course, like I said, the approach I take with all healing on every level. I started this podcast with the idea that to heal is to make whole on every level of our being. And we're talking about not just healing the body, but healing us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, healing us in the terms of the way we relate to other people in interpersonal relationships, healing our relationship with the planet and the environment, is all about moving forward in a holistic way. Well, part of the reason why I've been able to do what I do is I have a lot of faith. I very, very sincerely believe that God wants good things to happen in the world, and therefore I believe that if I align myself with good things and I ask for help and guidance, that God can help me accomplish good things. And I've used this process over and over and over again with numerous things in my life, and it always has worked for me, and it has led me to have greater success and health in every area of my life, which is why I'm sharing it with you today. And I hope that you'll take it to heart and start learning this process. I will continue to share more information about these ideas, of course, in upcoming episodes of this podcast. But we're laying foundational principles right now that will help us get into this in deeper ways with more strategies, more ways to actually accomplish the things that we're talking about that have come to me over the years. But it is like it's important to understand the process before we start like getting into specifics and details and ideas about how to follow through with the process. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Notice some people have joined us live. Thank you for the nice comment, and I hope that the rest of you watching this afterwards will get the benefit from it. Please leave comments in the videos below, and I will try to respond to any comments or questions that people ask. Also, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. And if you find this video useful, please share it with others so that we can get this information out to more people. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on our next broadcast, which will be, I'm not sure when next week, because I'm going to, you see the boxes behind me. This is the last day I have my office. I'm taking it apart. We're moving into our trailer this weekend and headed to California to find a new house, because I'm applying this process again to change with my wife, changing our life, moving into a different situation in our life to create a better future for the both of us. So part of that is packing everything up and heading out to find the new place where we're going to live. So I'll let everybody know when that broadcast will be later. Until then, have a good day and God bless.